Hey, good morning, everybody. We're going to give everybody 1 minute to get their audio and video settled. So just hang tight for me and we'll get started at 12:01. All right, we are ready to get started. So good morning. Thank you for joining us for our 5th installment of our Navigating Uncertain Times webinar series. Before we get into the content today, I want to start with a couple housekeeping items for you guys. One is today's webinar is going to be 30 minutes in length. If you guys do have any technical difficulties, please use the chat function that's built into the GoToWebinar panel there. We're going to do our best to help you guys troubleshoot those and get any issues resolved. With that being said, far and away, the most common issues that we see are audio issues. And so if you do experience audio issues throughout the webinar, we recommend using the phone call option and the audio panel on GoToWebinar. It'll basically give you a phone number, you just dial in and you should be able to connect and hear just fine. That's usually more stable for folks. And then lastly, we will be fielding some questions throughout today's webinar. If we have some extra time at the end, we're going to go ahead and have the panelists address those. But if not, we will still chase down some answers and get you guys some of those probably by about middle of next week. So let's get started. My name is Matthew Beal. I am a product marketing manager here at Storable, and I'm going to be your host for the Navigating Uncertain Times webinar series. And today we wanted to start by giving you guys some insight into why we started this series. So here at Storable, we see it as our responsibility to help provide you guys with some perspective and insight in the midst of this crisis. And we feel that we are uniquely positioned to do that for 3 main reasons seen here. First is the breadth of our client base. And because we work with over half of the operators in the industry, we have a really broad overview of how folks are addressing this crisis. And additionally, with our depth of industry expertise, we have one of the largest teams in the industry that is made up of folks with decades of experience that really have deep expertise in a number of areas, ranging from operations to marketing minded stuff. And then lastly is the volume of resources. So with our relationships with industry associations and partners, we have another unique vantage point that really equips us to be able to address the evolving circumstances. And lastly is that we have the platform to be able to combine all of those and just help provide you guys with some guidance into what we're seeing at a high level throughout the industry. So let's take a look at kind of where at our webinar series at a glance. So last week we had 3 operators attend for a roundtable focused on COVID-19, and they brought to the table kind of a wide array of experience. And they were able to loan their perspective on how to adjust to this new market that's been affected by COVID-19. And most importantly is that we have fielded questions directly from you guys, the attendees. We wanted to know what you guys had in questions and concerns. So if you want to review that, it was very much focused on collections, delinquency, and marketing right now in this world. We would recommend checking it out at blog.storable.com, where you can view a recording of that roundtable. And then this week, we have Chuck Gordon, who's the CEO of Storable, and Tim Dietz, the president and CEO of the SSA. They're going to be coming together for a fireside chat. And so they're going to be discussing both how Storable and the SSA's role and kind of their actions taken to be able to help guide operators through these uncertain times. And then next week, we're going to be hosting another operator roundtable with a different focus. We're going to be discussing the health of the industry and kind of the future of the industry, including steps that various folks are taking to prepare for it. So please come prepared with your Q&A there as well. But without further ado, I want to introduce Chuck and Tim. Chuck, I will hand it over to you.
Thanks, Matt. Much appreciated. Tim, it's wonderful to have you on here today. Thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it. I know everyone's very excited to hear from you. So why don't we just go ahead and launch right into it?
Sure. Thanks
great.
for having me, Matt and Chuck.
Of course. Yeah. No, it's an honor. So thank you. Okay, so first off, why don't we just talk a little bit about how the SSA is doing as an organization during this crisis?
Well, the SSA is doing very well. You know, I'd say the crisis for us is what, 4 or 5 weeks old. You know, when you ask how we're doing, I'd say it all starts with the health and well-being of our staff and our members. And in that respect, certainly with our staff, everybody's doing well. In the DC area, we have 3 jurisdictions, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and they all have their own shelter-in-place declarations. And so we've been working virtually for about 4 weeks now. And we're doing fine. We found it to be very efficient, and happy to have everybody doing well and sheltering in place. We miss each other, like all of the organizations in the industry. We're experiencing what everybody is experiencing.
Right.
But yeah, we're doing pretty well, and we're busier than ever, actually. So
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that everyone is safe and the work from home transition has gone well. You're totally right. It's absolutely the most important thing. So you mentioned you're really busy right now. I mean, what are some of the things you guys are working on?
well, you know, the Self-Storage Association is not a one-headed monster. It's probably a 6 or 7-headed monster. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but you know, if you look at what our organization does, you know, we have an awful lot of events because we have our national events and we manage 17 state associations. And so it's been just a quick turn to make sure we're making the right decision, which has been obviously to postpone or cancel the events, work with the venues, work with the state association boards, and then of course we had the cancellation in San Antonio that we were all disappointed in, and you were going to be a panelist there, Chuck. So, but it's really been about making the right decisions and then administering the cancellations or postponements in the right way, and supporting the sector in other ways. We all miss getting together, and I think if there's anything that this has demonstrated is how much we like getting together and how much we miss each other. But then, you know, the other element that really distinguishes us is our legal and legislation, and you know, no other organization with a national footprint represents and protects the sector like the Self-Storage Association does. And of course, I've been here 16 years, and the first 11 I was the lobbyist and focused on advocacy and supporting the sector. So, and then we have research and data as well, and so we're very busy, and you know, all of those elements are still very active, and in many ways more important than ever. Certainly with representing and protecting the sector, which has just been constant.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and I know we've gotten a lot of questions about legal related issues over the last few weeks. What are the main issues that you guys are kind of seeing out there, and where should operators go to learn more?
Well, first of all, go to the SSA website to learn more and about the SSA and our news section under that for the latest information from our legal and legislative team, which they've just been Joe Doherty, Daniel Bryant, with the help of Carlos Caslow, who still works with us, have been working around the clock to keep up with all of the mandates and declarations that we've seen, and things we never expected, honestly. So it's new for everybody, but you know, we're here to ensure fair treatment of the self-storage industry, and so there are many elements to that. It started with the declarations, the emergency declarations, and price gouging issues. You can't be raising your rents. Mostly it's more than 10%. That was one of the first. And Then the business closures and shelter in place requirements. There were just a lot of misconceptions about whether or not self-storage is essential or not, and it is, by the way. We're an important element in our culture with the supply chain and all of the needs we provide for the last minute distribution and storage for all parts of our sector. And so the business closures have been problematic. And then whether or not our members can proceed with their routine collections and lien needs, that's of course been compromised by the changes that we're seeing in our economy. And we want to make sure that the industry is doing the right things with respect to that. And then there have also been, the question of whether or not your employees and the family leave parts of our business, just like any businesses are subject or we're subject to. So it's a multi-headed, situation that every day it's several of them. And then we've also seen really strange things. We saw the New York legislature pass their budget in a hurry in an effort to get out of Albany, and they did not have the typical public disclosure patterns, protocols that they've always observed. They didn't put the budget online to review. They didn't allow our representation to be in the Capitol, obviously, because we're in a unique situation. And they did some damage to our industry when they eliminated self-storage from a development incentive with the tax abatement program that had been there for years, and the industry wasn't even given a chance to comment. So those are the type of unique challenges that we're facing, and we're doing our best to play catch up and get in front of those things. So the good news is that our legislative program has come so far, and our relationship with the state associations is so strong that we do have a stable of great representation in about 45 of the states helping us with those things.
That's great. And, I can definitely speak on behalf of all of our customers. They very much appreciate all the work you and your team do on the legal front. And if anyone hasn't checked out the Self-Storage Association's information about what's going on from a legal perspective, definitely go to their website, read about it. It's the most detailed view I've seen of what's happening in every specific state.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah, absolutely. So what kinds of things are you hearing from your members that you've been speaking to? I mean, what are they seeing out there? What are they worried about?
Well, what are they not worried about? I mean, we're all facing, we're crossing bridges that we've never crossed before. So they're concerned about the health and well-being of their families and their employees, first and foremost. And so, that's taken precedent over everything. And then whether or not their routine and common business practices need to be adjusted, which in most cases they have. Right. Most operators have moved to touchless rentals, but it's also been very important to them to remain open to give their tenants access to the units. Self-storage is a critical component of the transitional engine of our economy and our culture. We really grew out of the moving and storage sector, 50 or 60 years ago. And, our leases don't distinguish what type of tenants we have. So some of them are businesses. More than half of them are in some sort of transition. Maybe they've gotten a new job, or they've had a death, or there's a relocation. So it's critical that self-storage operations remain active and that the tenants have access to their units. So that's been the most important thing. And again, they want to make sure that if they are renting, that the tenants do so in a safe, touchless manner. So we've seen, I'm proud of the industry. I mean, the industry is really, they've adapted quickly and done the right things to ensure continuity of self-storage.
Yeah, it is really interesting, right? I mean, just to think about how many years of discussion was had about online move-ins or not, and in a period of 1 month, it's all of a sudden not a choice anymore, and we've just seen massive widespread adoption. And I too am impressed, honestly, with everyone's ability to kind of deal with the situation and change their approach that they might have had for a very long time.
Yeah, and in the, you know, when they haven't been able to do a virtual or kiosk or a touchless rental, I think they're practicing social distancing and still ensuring that their business can continue, at least you know, at least with respect to providing access to units and renting vacant units to the public.
Yeah,
in a safe way.
Yep. And so I guess, you know, thinking forward a little bit, what are some of the risks that you're worried about for the industry as this thing plays out? I mean, I think we've gotten through kind of the initial how do we operate zone, and now we're into the, okay, what are the impacts of the economic situation going to be on self-storage? I mean, what are you worried about there? Or maybe perhaps are there any silver linings?
Well, the risks, you know, the risks would be what everybody is concerned about, which is if we are involved in any outbreak situation, which we have not heard of. I mean, self-storage is, you know, we're not a mass gathering purpose in any way. But I would say, before I talk about the economics of it, I would say that you know, one of the biggest risks that we always have with self-storage are the misconceptions about our sector. You know, we are here to provide you know, fill an important role for the industry. I mean, that's why there's more than 50,000 properties coast to coast. I mean, the industry has grown at a fast clip because we serve a purpose within our economy. So the sector is really filling a need, and a lot of disruption to people's lives are unavoidable right now, and self-storage is probably playing an important role in helping them to transition to a new lifestyle that they weren't expecting. That's important. So you know, self-storage sometimes is maligned in our culture, in media, and so forth. And we're just so important to how, you know, we as an industry transition, how we live. It's become an important culture to what we do in America, or how we live in America. I would say that I think we're all concerned about the economy, but if you look back to 9/11, if you look back to the Great Recession, our sector weathered pretty well and came out on the other side stronger than ever. And I think that'll be the case for self-storage. But you know, the same concerns that you know, that any real estate sector would have. Now, we're certainly not dealing with the kind of issues that the hotels and retail and commercial real estate are. And I think everybody in self-storage is thankful for that. But you know, I don't see a lot of panicking. And actually, I've seen some encouraging signs from the operators that I've talked to.
Good. Yeah, no, that's really great to hear, and I agree. The self-storage industry has proven resilient in the past, and I think early signs suggest that hopefully that's the case here. You know, I think people are worried about what's going to happen if a ton of their tenants don't pay, but that hasn't manifested itself yet from anyone I've heard. So it's just something we need to continue to watch. So how about kind of going forward with SSA Events? You know, what's your plan for kind of the upcoming schedule, and you know, the big question on everyone's mind, I'm sure, is what's going to happen with Vegas in September.
Well, you know, as of now, you know, it's business as usual, and we're planning to be at MGM like we and on the Vegas Strip with everybody gathering, or as many who can make it. Obviously, we're keeping an eye on contingencies. You know, we just feel so bad for all the people we work with in Las Vegas. Yeah. MGM has been really good to us. And as I said at the beginning, I mean, I think this sector is just really thirsty to get together. There's a reason we do national events twice a year. We are a bedroom community, and we can do these virtual things. And I have no intention on becoming the next social media superstar.
But you're so good.
For the self-storage sector. There's plenty of you out there doing a great job and providing great information, which we appreciate. But it's important to get together. It's important to network and share ideas and to have fun, and to conduct business. But you know, I'm not concerned at all if there's disruptions again. We're going to do the right thing. And we do plan to be in Las Vegas. We haven't, you know, obviously we're all looking at what this crisis unfolds and what the timeline looks like. And I know everyone I talk to can't wait to get together. We plan to be in Las Vegas. Our events right now are canceled through mid-June. So that's been about 8 state meetings and education events, and some of those are being pushed to the fall. One thing we're doing that with respect to the state meetings, state association meetings, and we're gonna, you know, hopefully partner with the state associations that we have a great relationship with, but we don't manage, is we're gonna regionalize wherever we can. You know, really in deference to our vendor friends and those of you who want to go to multiple events throughout the country. Everything is getting pushed to late summer and fall, obviously, and we certainly can still get together with those. So we're taking a look at where we can regionalize. I think we'll probably be doing Illinois and Indiana together, Ohio and Kentucky. At least for this year, maybe Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Maryland and Virginia. It's just, I think it's the most rational approach that we can take, and give all of our friends who do a lot of these conferences a bit of a break. So it's not about the money, it's about doing the right thing.
Sure, and you're referring to once these in-person events are rescheduled.
Of course,
yep.
Yeah, that's right. So, and again, that looks like the fall, and you know, when you consider there's 42 state associations around the country, and a lot of them had to cancel their spring conferences or postpone them, you know, you could end up with state association meetings every day, right? Every other day. So we're gonna, you know, we have plenty of time, and we're gonna take our time, and we're gonna plan accordingly.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that makes sense, and appreciate the thinking of vendors on that front too. So one other thing I wanted to ask you about before we jump into some Q&A is the SSA Cares program that you guys launched. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, you know, this came to us from a lot of our members who wanted to do something for their communities, and you know, very few people are at 100%. Our industry is doing well, but I'd say our sector is generally at 85 to 95%, which means that there are vacant units out there. Right. And there's a lot of equipment being moved around, a lot of supplies for responders, emergency responders, healthcare and hospital systems. And so we asked our members if they were willing to donate, you know, a handful of units for those important professionals that are responding on the front lines. And more than 150 companies actually contacted us to donate space. And we've actually had some matches. We just helped the healthcare system this week in Detroit, where they're just hit really hard. and they needed somewhere to put beds, extra beds that they had put in place, just in case they need to mobilize and place them in temporary shelters and hospitals. So that's what the SSA Cares is, and you know, one of the things we're seeing with that is that there's more space than supplies, which is I think a concern for our country. But where there are supplies and equipment being stocked, self-storage can serve a purpose. So thanks for asking about that, Chuck.
Yeah, no, it's such a great program, and it's awesome to hear the participation you've already seen. If people want to learn more about participating in that, where should they go to find out more information?
Just go to our SSA website and selfstorage.org. And again, the outpouring of volunteers from the sector has been tremendous. So thank you to everybody who might be on who's participating in that.
Awesome. All right, Tim, that's great stuff there. So why don't we go ahead and take a few questions? Alex, you want to read us the first question that came in?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Are most operators leaving their discounts in place, or do you see them changing their discounting strategy through this time?
Pricing is an area that I struggle to get into, and there's with respect to sort of being the host to the industry, I have to be careful with respect to antitrust laws and so forth. But I will say that the industry is doing the right thing in every aspect that I've seen by and large. So whether, you know, when you're talking about discounting, you're also talking about increasing rents and so forth. Generally what I've seen is a very sympathetic approach by our sector throughout the enterprises. Our industry is trying to do the right thing by the communities that they serve, and we've seen that everywhere.
Yep, and we've, just to add to that, we've definitely, on at least the SpareFoot side, have seen people continue with the discounts and promos that they had in place before, and haven't really seen any sort of big changes there.
Yeah, Chuck, you know more about this than me, so you tell me.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, we just really haven't seen a ton of change on that front. Alex, we got another question?
Yeah, so for the associations that you all manage, what conversations have you had with governors or other officials concerning collections of past due rent before and after some of these stay-in-place changes went into effect?
Well, the administrations are pretty busy, right? So they're not spending a lot of time worrying about self-storage, and they certainly are worried about other real estate sectors ahead of self-storage. So the role we've been trying to fill there is to ensure that our members are aware of the laws that have been put in place. And generally, self-storage has not been subject. I mean, the industry has really they've sort of regulated themselves to do the right thing. But there are places where the declarations and mandates are clear, and we've been trying to make sure that our operators know that in New York, in New Hampshire, in Nevada, in California, that there are laws in place that do have sort of put a moratorium on the collections processes. But generally, that's been a business decision. California's been a little difficult because their governor has really left that to the municipalities, and there are literally dozens of different regulations that have been put in place just in the last couple of weeks. So trying to stay on top of that has been a challenge. And we've actually seen some places where the municipality declarations conflict with the state declarations. So, they're challenged with an awful lot going on right now in public service, and I think you see that. But I would say be careful and go to our website and read about the laws that have been put in place, because our guys have been updating that at least every couple days, and that's how fast it's changing. So
that's great. Alex, do we have another one?
Yeah, we have a couple more if we've got time. What is Chuck? Maybe you can take this one. Have you seen many changes in reservations? Say compared to March and April against each other, and then against prior years.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take it, Tim, and you can add on too. So the viewpoint we have is what's going on SpareFoot. And what we can see there is across, the 14,000-ish locations we have listed on that site and the millions of visitors we're driving and rentals all the time. We've seen most of March was up because the student season came early, and what we actually saw was the spike that we'd normally anticipate at the end of April and beginning of May happened in the middle of March once all the colleges closed down. So we had a very strong month in March, but towards the end of the month, it started slowing down. And then in April, through most of the month so far, we had seen kind of like in the negative 15 to 20% year-over-year volume range. And that is pretty consistent with what I've heard from all the operators that I've spoken with. They're seeing kind of at least that much decline. And in some cases, I've heard it be more than that as well. I will say though, just in the last few days on SpareFoot, we have seen volume tick back up a bit on a year-over-year basis. And I don't know what is driving that, but it's obviously a trend we're going to continue to watch, and hopefully that's a sign of something good. But again, it's just a few days of data. Tim, have you heard anything different?
No, I would just, that's what we've heard from our members as well. Our members are your customers, Chuck. So, May was moved to March with respect to the universities and the schools, and the trends we saw, I think, reflected that. So.
Yep. Okay, great. Well, this has been fantastic, Tim. Thank you so much for your time. We're honored to have you here today, and I know everyone at Storable and everyone in the industry appreciates everything that you and the SSA do for all of us. So seriously, thank you. And we look forward to hopefully having you back again sometime.
Thanks, Chuck. See you guys. We'll see everybody soon. Take care.
Thanks. All right, we'll hand it back over to Matt.
Bye, Matt.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, I just echo what Chuck said. I think that was incredibly valuable. So I really just want to take a moment to thank you guys for your time and for your insights there. I think it's going to be, nothing but value. So thank you. We do have a couple last-minute housekeeping items just for you guys before we wrap up. For Storable clients in particular that are in attendance today, we released some best practices articles on our blog at blog.storable.com. A couple of weeks ago, but we have been continuing to update these over time. The idea being that we have kind of grouped up a whole bunch of unique capabilities and features that you guys can use to solve the unique business problems that are presented to you by COVID-19. So we recommend checking it out. We're also excited to announce that we are going to be hosting 2 webinars next week. For SiteLink software, we're going to have one on Wednesday, and for storage software, we're going to have one on Thursday, where we walk you guys through how to configure those and how to use those and kind of how to get the most out of them. So in your follow-up email today for this webinar, we'll include instructions for signing up for those as well. And that concludes today's webinar. So if you guys do have any questions like throughout the week, feel free to email us at webinars@storable.com. And we will get back to you. There were some other questions that were asked for today's panel. We will also chase down some answers to that for you guys, and we'll get back to you probably about the middle of next week. But lastly, just, guys, these are unprecedented times. We very much value you guys attending these. We're going to continue to do our part driving innovation on our side, sharing information with you guys. But please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that we can do to help you guys. With that being said, have a great weekend, and we will see you guys at next week's webinar.